Hello everybody. In this video lesson we're going to be focusing on the Cambridge English Advanced CAE Speaking paper, part 2. So let's get started. So there are 4 parts in the speaking paper, and we're going to be focusing in this lesson on part 2, which is called Long Turn. And this involves you speaking by yourself about some photographs. So, we're going to have a quick reminder about the speaking paper, and then we're going to look at the best tips, techniques, practice and strategy to follow for part 2 of the speaking paper. So part 2 is called the long turn, but really what you're doing is you're talking about photographs by yourself. And how many photographs do you need to talk about? 2. You need to talk about 2 photographs. And how long do you need to talk about them for? 1 minute. You have 1 minute to talk about 2 different photographs. And do you do anything else? Yes. Because the speaking paper involves you and one other candidate, you need to listen to what your other candidate says about their photographs, and then you have to respond to a question related to the photographs the other candidate has spoken about. So the other candidate will speak for 1 minute, and then the examiner will ask you a question about their photographs, and you have about 30 seconds to respond to this question. Okay, here's an example. This comes from the Cambridge English Advanced Handbook for Teachers, and I showed you how you can access this in the last video lesson in part 1, but if you've forgotten, I'll show you again. So, there is a website down here, let me show you at the bottom, which I have typed into my web browser. I can type into Google Chrome or Internet Explorer. And this page, it says from page 80. At the moment I'm on page 79, and here is page 80. In order to see it properly, I'll rotate it, and there we have it. And as we can see, these 3 photographs here are from this, which is page 80 of the Cambridge English Advanced Handbook for Teachers, which you can access from this website. Okay, and as you can see in this slide here, there are 3 pictures, but you only need to talk about 2 of them. So you need to choose which 2 you want to speak about and focus just on those 2 pictures. You'll also notice there are 2 questions written above the photographs. And you need to really try and focus on answering these questions. Don't get distracted describing the photos. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to talk about what you see, but you are supposed to talk about answering these 2 questions and comparing the photographs, which we'll look at in a bit more detail. This quote here comes from the Cambridge English Advanced Handbook for Teachers, and it says, "Candidates are asked to compare, express opinions, and speculate about 2 pictures from a set of 3. So, choose 2 pictures, compare them, talk about the similarities and differences, express your opinion, say what you think, and speculate, say what might be happening or what might happen in the future with regards to these photographs." Time for tip number 2. It's very important to compare the photographs. So you should try to talk about the similarities and the differences between the 2 photographs you have chosen. How are they similar? How are they different? you should also mention one thing about one photograph, and immediately after, you should compare this same point with the other photograph. So say one thing about one photograph, and then immediately after say, compare this point with the other photograph. This allows you to speak about both photographs equally, which is very important as well. So keep mentioning one point about one photograph, and then the same point about the other photograph, and then one point about the first photograph, and another point about the second photograph, like this. Okay. Because you don't want to just talk all the time about one photograph. You need to have a balance, talking about both of them. So, if you look at the Cambridge English Advanced Handbook for Teachers PDF again, which I showed you a bit earlier, and look at page 83, you'll see 3 photographs which look like this. What I want you to do is to look at the 2 questions above these photographs and to write down what you could say with regards to these questions. Okay? So pause this video now for a couple of minutes and write down some potential answers to these 2 questions. And when you're ready, you can press play on this video. Okay. So this is what my answer is. I say, the people in the picture on the right might be playing music together because they are in a band, and they may need to perform on a stage at a concert that evening. So, I've put some words in bold in my answer here. The first one's might be. Might be is a really useful phrase for speculating. I don't know what they're doing for definite, and so I'm speculating, I'm guessing, and I say they might be playing music together. And why do I say that? I'm justifying my opinion and saying because. They might be playing music together because. And again, I speculate and I say they may need to perform on a stage. So some good words for speculation and also some good words and phrases for justifying what you're saying. Then I say, whereas. Now whereas is a really good word for comparing. And you need to compare and contrast, as I said, in this task. So you should use words like whereas, while, but, however, to show the differences. Yeah, to show differences, but also you need to use these words to show similarities between 2 different pictures. So here I say, whereas the people in the picture on the left may be going on a trek together in order to rebuild and solidify old relationships with one another. Okay, so if we go through from the top again, might be speculating, because justifying, may lead to speculating. Whereas comparing, may be going, speculating again, in order to justifying. Okay. And finally, I say, I think the people in the picture on the right could be feeling, because we don't forget we need to answer both questions above. So in the first part, I'd answered the top question, and then I move on to the second question, how might they be feeling, and could be feeling, could be, and then a verb with an ing is another good way to speculate, which is what we need to do. Okay, and notice how I also talk about the picture on the right and the picture on the left. I don't say the first picture or the second picture, because I don't know which one is the first picture and which one is the second picture, but I do know that this is the picture on the left and this is the picture on the right. Okay, so again, we're speculating, we're justifying our own opinions, and we're comparing the 2 photographs, and we're answering these 2 questions above. Okay, tip number 3. I say think about some general topics beforehand which can apply to lots of photographs in different situations. For example, you might want to talk about the advantages and disadvantages surrounding money, how much something costs, social life. Is this an activity that you do by yourself or with another person? Indoor and outdoor activities. Is this something they're doing indoors? Is this something they're doing outdoors? Now, the reason I tell you to do this tip and to think about these topics beforehand is because sometimes when you're in an exam, you might get nervous and you might suddenly forget what to say. This can happen. You can freeze. And when you freeze, if you freeze, it's very good to have these go-to topics. If you're suddenly, ooh, I don't know what to say. Okay, expense, money, how can these photographs apply? Okay, so in this picture, this activity probably costs a lot of money. Whereas in this picture, the activity doesn't cost a lot of money. And you can do this activity by yourself, whereas this activity you do with other people. And you have these topics in your mind, so if you freeze, you can still carry on talking because you know, okay, how can I apply these topics to the pictures? Tip number 4. Practice, practice, practice. Practice before you get into the exam. Now you can practice with me if you want to do private lessons with me, and I'll show you how to book those later. Or you can practice with a friend or someone else you know. So what you should do when you're practicing before the exam, you should tell your friend, someone you know, or your teacher to give you 3 different photographs. You can take these photographs from anywhere. You can find a book or a magazine, photocopy 3 photographs, but also ask this person to write down 2 questions which can apply to these 3 photographs. And then you should practice answering those 2 questions about 2 from the 3 photographs. You should also ask your friend or your teacher or someone you know to time you to make sure that you're only speaking for a minute. And if you practice with the time as well, that's really important because this gives you an idea how long you need to speak for in the exam. Practicing with the time gets you in the mentality that you need for the exam, and it's really important. So make sure when you're practicing, you time yourself, or you get someone else to time you. And I say the more you practice this beforehand, the more confident you will be when speaking continuously for 1 minute. Because sometimes people are not so confident speaking for 1 minute by themselves. The more practice you do, the more confident you will become. Okay, so here's a homework exercise. I want you guys to find at least 2 photographs, preferably 3, but at least 2 photographs, and think of 2 questions that you can answer about these photographs. And then practice talking about these photographs for 1 minute with a friend or someone you know, and tell them to time you. Even better if they can find the photographs and they can find the questions. Okay. So here is the web address again for the Cambridge English Advanced Teacher's Handbook, which these examples from this lesson came from. So if you type this web address into your internet browser and then go to the pages I've shown you in the slides before, you can find these same pictures and these same questions. And finally, if you want to book live lessons with me, this is how you can do it. Go to this web address and then you complete a form, and then I will get in contact with you. And then we can set up some private lessons or some group lessons, or I can give you information about some of my other courses which can be really useful for you for passing this part of the exam or a different exam paper as well. Okay. In the next lesson we're going to be focusing on the speaking paper part 3, But for now, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Goodbye.